You've heard me talk about that.
God.
Bro, let's back that up.
God,
let's
man.
back up. Hey guys, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Amanda.
And welcome back to our channel.
So today we are going to be talking about our favorite books that we read in 2021.
We did start reading just this past year, and we didn't really start avidly reading until summer, so a lot of these books on the list are very popular and they're the ones that were trending, but hopefully next year we get into, you know, a couple different genres and start finding more of what we like.
Since we do read a lot of the same books, we were able to choose 4 that we wanted to be on this list, and then we chose 4 individually.
The first book that we both wanted to include on this list is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. As y'all know, we do love Colleen. We love anything she writes. But this one we read during the summer. This is about a girl named Bea who comes from a life of poverty and struggling, and a boy named Samson who comes from a family of wealth. You kind of just see how they meet and their interactions, and then it grows into something more as they spend their summer together. And they actually have more in common than you might think. And there's a bit of a twist in here.
This is so underrated, I feel.
It is. I'd never seen this.
And it's truly one of her best. You were crying.
I was fucking crying on the beach. I was crying on the beach while reading this. We read a lot of YA, especially romance, but this one was just, it was uniquely done, honestly.
Colleen just hasn't failed us yet, so.
Top tier.
So the first book on my personal list was The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This was my first enemies to lovers. So this is about a wedding that happens, and everyone at this wedding gets food poisoning except for our 2 main characters, Ethan and Olive. And they are not each other's biggest fans, but there is a free honeymoon up for grabs, so they end up taking it, and it is quite the experience. I think this was a great introduction to enemies to lovers for me. It was just so funny. I also read this one in summer, and I think just the fact that it was placed in Maui gave it the whole like summer effect and feel. It was really funny. It was really cute. I could definitely see this being a movie. I think
it is going to be a
movie. I think it is too. It'll be so fun.
They're going to do a great job with that, yeah. So the first book on my individual list is Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Gaskell. I did read this book at the very beginning of the year, but I do remember absolutely loving it. So this is a YA about a 17-year-old girl who goes through massive losses in her life. She actually resorts to self-harm, and it's overall just her journey through self-harm and how she overcomes that. The main character goes through a lot. We see her journey through mental health and kind of getting the help she needs. This book was super emotional as well, and when I think about all the books I read this year, this does make my top of the top list.
The next book that we both picked is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This one I just won't ever be able to get over. It was so good. It was so emotional. It follows Achilles and Patroclus and their beautiful relationship, and this one is just honestly a perfect book. It is Greek mythology, and we had to read that in high school, and I remember hating it, and it was just so hard to like understand.
Right.
So I never followed along, but this, Miss Madeline Miller, kind of made it to where like our generation could really understand and fall in love with these characters as well. So
what I do love about this book is we meet them when they're like 6 years old, they're really young, and then we get to see these characters throughout their whole life grow, and it feels like we're kind of growing with them. At the end of this book I felt like I knew them, so it made it even more heartbreaking, just like the end of the story, but I thought it was so well done. We did read 1-star reviews of this book actually in a different video that we had. I don't understand how people didn't love this book, but I can see if they were going into it, maybe if you're already a fan of Greek mythology, maybe you weren't expecting, like, this was just a romance, like, their journey, their life, so I feel like maybe if they weren't expecting that, maybe that's why a lot of people didn't like it. I don't know, but I thought it was just so beautiful.
If you have not read this one yet, I really suggest that you do. So the next one on my personal list is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This one was such an emotional ride for me. I think out of all of her books, this is the one that I was like seriously so heartbroken by. I was like crying so hard. I had the tissues all around me. This is about Miles and Tate, and they end up forming a relationship, but under the conditions that Tate does not ask Miles about his past and she does not expect a future. Learning about his past in the end and why he is the way he is was just very heartbreaking to me, and this will forever be one of my favorites by Colleen Hoover.
The second book on my individual list is, of course, Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. If you watch our channel, it's nothing new. You know that this is my favorite series, so I had to include it in my favorites list. This is the second book in the Scythe trilogy, and it's just absolutely amazing. So the first book in this series is basically about a world with no hunger, no pain, no misery. Humanity has basically conquered death, so it's kind of what life would look like afterwards. And the only people who could take death are the Scythes, and they do so because they have to in order to keep the population under control. That's kind of just the premise, but this book goes into the politics of it all, the different governments, and how society acts in a world where there is no death. And there's just so many layers. There's a specific event, a tragic event that happens in this book that completely destroyed me at the time, and I still think about it. It's so well done, and this is actually a YA dystopian, which normally I'm not a huge fan of dystopians, but this was just unreal, completely different. I want to read more of this author next year. There's a huge series that he's done with like 7+ books, so I really want to get into that, but overall, yes, I had to include this. Forever my favorite.
I need to get into those next year because
please.
She talks so much about them.
And I forever will, so get ready. The next book that we both have picked out is Verity by, once again, Colleen Hoover. Verity specifically, absolutely amazing. This one's about a struggling writer named Lowen who's on the brink of financial ruin. She gets a job offer of a lifetime by a man whose wife is a best-selling author but is unable to complete her series because of an accident. So Lowen gets hired, and she ends up going to the house and looks for material through his wife's study and ends up finding something that should have definitely remained hidden. This was like our first real thriller suspense story. And honestly,
this like made us want to start reading other thrillers and mysteries. I think this was such a good first one for us because it did also have some romance in it, and it wasn't like too much mystery or too much thriller, but it was just perfect. Miss Colleen left us speechless once again. There was a huge twist in the end, and it was just amazing. She is well deserved to be on this list. So,
and she's on here quite a bit.
Yes.
So get prepared. But no, like she said, everything about this book was just absolutely unreal. For me though, even though it is a romantic thriller, I felt like the thriller aspect
was a little creepy.
Yeah, like the romance for me was just a side thing because the actual mystery of this book was insane. And I know a lot of this revolves around the main character finding an autobiography about an author she's supposed to be writing for, and a lot of the autobiography is intense and even off-putting at times, but if you're reading it and you're off-put by it, please just power through and finish it because the end is worth it. And my god, I still think about this book to this day.
I know. After I read it, I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. It's very good.
So Verity by Colleen Hoover was my favorite thriller this year, and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson was my favorite mystery this year. This one was so good. It was everything that One of Us is Lying should have been. There was a murder in this town, and the community seemed to have settled with the verdict. Pippa just thinks that there's more to the story, so she thinks it's perfect for her senior project to kind of investigate and open up this case again. I really enjoyed that this book had first person and third person, and it had like interview kind of dialogue in it. I just thought it was really unique, and I loved the story. Every chapter there was like something that was revealed, and every chapter was kind of like, no, this person did it, this person did it, and then the ending when you find out what happened was just crazy, and I really enjoyed the ending as well. So.
It was worth the wait.
It was.
The ending. Yeah,
the problem with One of Us is Lying, I kind of felt like this was the same kind of vibe. Like,
it is.
Who did it? One of Us is Lying, I did not like the ending.
It wasn't my favorite. I think it was just, I was disappointed because they were setting us up for something specific, and then it didn't give me what I needed, but this one did.
This one did. I read this all in one sitting. I loved it so much, so it was one of my top favorites of the year.
So my next pick on my individual list is, of course, The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. You've heard me talk about this before, and you're going to hear it again, but it truly just is the most magical, heartfelt, just happy, beautiful story that I've read this year, and I had to include it. This one's about a man who lives a quiet, solitary life. He works for the department in charge of magical youth, and his day-to-day pretty much just is him going to different orphanages and making sure that everyone's quality of life is good and overseeing the children. So one day he gets an unexpected case and he has to travel to this magical island. I do read a lot of, you know, mystery thrillers like we were talking about. We read a lot of romance, but this was just a breath of fresh air, that something different that we don't normally read, but just completely worth it. A wholesome family. You get to meet all these beautiful characters, beautiful setting, and it really is just like an easy read. It was so good though. This author does have another book that I really want to get into, so I want to read it next year, but this is just, yeah, very top tier, beautiful. I want you to read it.
I think that would be such a good one to read like in the beginning of the year, just to start with something happy vibes.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Please go read this one. Please go read this one.
So the next one that we really both enjoyed this year was, of course, It Ends With Us by Miss Colleen Hoover. I think this one was like the book of the year for everyone.
Absolutely.
Kylie Jenner read it, hello.
Which is
like,
insane.
That is so insane. She doesn't even read, but I mean, like, that's just crazy. But it was so good.
This is everything that I needed for my first ever romance. This was our first adult romance, first Colleen book, and this honestly just set the path for our reading journey and our love for romance books. Like, this just had it all.
She set the bar so high.
She set the bar
after
so
we read, I was
high.
like, after we started reading other things, we're like, hold on.
Even for Colleen, this is my favorite Colleen book. If you don't know already, this is about a girl named Lily. She moves to Boston. She meets a new guy, has a new job. Her life seems a little too good to be true. And then, of course, her past resurfaces and things kind of...
So good. It's just, it's perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah, this was on the bestsellers list for like a long time. I know there's a big controversy about this because of what the book does entail and how it ends, but it is based on her mother's experience with these sort of things, so you gotta just take it how it is, you know, and even though we don't necessarily love everything that happens in the ending as well,
I do love that it's like respecting to her and her mom's story, so...
Perfect.
Love this one. So the last one on my favorites list of this year is Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. Oh my goodness. I think what really got me with this one was the plot twist.
Right, because you don't expect it.
I did not expect it at all. I love being a crying mess when I'm reading. Like, it's just...
It adds to the experience.
It does. It adds to it. Like, I will forever remember it. Like, I cried so hard in that book, but... This one was just so good. This one is about a girl who struggles with OCD and her friends don't know about it, and she ends up meeting this other friend who she can kind of open up to, and this friend just helps her overcome her struggles, and it is just a journey. This book is so good, so crazy. If you haven't read this one, I definitely recommend reading this one if you are looking to go through quite an emotional journey.
So the last book on my individual list is, of course, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series. We read the first one in November, and I immediately had to pick this one up and read it. And when I say that this changed my life, I'm not even trying to be dramatic, but it did. The first book in the series is about a girl named Farah. Her family and her live in poverty. She's then brought into this magical world, and honestly, that's all I'm gonna say. She meets a bunch of people, and her life changes for good, as did mine. So this was our first real fantasy series. Honestly, the first book, we had mixed feelings. We thought it was okay, but reading...
I'm still on the first book.
Right.
She took off without me. So.
I had to, and I read every single one right after. But honestly,
that's crazy. I'm so happy that you liked them so much.
Compared to the first book, though, that wasn't shit. Like, let's be honest. The first book did such a great job at setting up the rest of the series, but that's all it really was good for, because the next two books are so good. I know a lot of people don't like Sarah J. Maas. They don't like this series. I honestly don't know what they're talking about.
See, but that's crazy, because then that means that there's even better
fantasy series out there. Let me know what those are. Leave them in the comments, because this changed my life. I swear to you. the characters, the found family, the setting, everything about this, so freaking amazing. I'll never stop recommending it. I'll never get over these characters. Please pick up the series. Read the first one, if only to get to this second one, okay? Like, just get through the first one, then read this one. So good. Top tier. Absolute favorite. On my top list. My top one.
Yeah, your top one. So this is going to be the end for today's videos. These were just our top 12.
This was a lot of reading what's trending, reading what's popular, trying to catch up on everything that everyone loves. So next year's really going to be about our own individual taste, trying to find our own footing in this.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Like, there's so many great books that we still haven't read.
Now we have a better understanding of what we like, what we don't like.
Exactly.
So it's going to be a good year next year. But yeah, so these were just a few of our favorites. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked any of these books or if you have any book recommendations for us, please comment them down below and we will see you guys next time.
We do post videos every Wednesday and Friday, of course, so if you haven't already, please subscribe and we'll see you next time.
Bye!
It's been a day, y'all. It's been a day.
Oh my god.
We recorded this whole video, you guys. This whole video. And then we looked back at the footage and it wasn't even recording. So we lost all of it. That's why our energy level is just down
It was
here.
all over today.
And it was so
Our
good.
energy was so good the first time.
We had so many funny moments.
I promise we're funny.
I swear we're funny. I swear. I will die on this hill. We are funny sometimes. And we thought we caught so many of those moments. The second time around. The second time around, we were just trying to recall what we said the first time. Super disappointing.
We should have asked for a new camera for Christmas, but instead we asked for new books. So it is what it is. Okay, bye.